pretty awake for the first Sunday of the year. Yeah? Yeah? Kind of? Maybe? All right. Eric's here. Good. And I would like to say, because he did this before service, I am not matching him. He is matching me, okay? So when you see him, tell him he has good fashion taste because he's matching me. But on a real note, I'm super excited to be here. I am the kids director over on the other side of our church. So I get to really pour into the little ones, and wow, they are smart. They keep me on my toes. They keep me running around. And so I get to be a part of this service through podcasts. So hi to all the podcast and YouTube viewers. Glad you're with us. I'm glad all of you guys are here. Who is like loving the prayer and fasting videos? Shane, Jessica, yes. I am loving them. I did not love doing them. So when mine comes up, just have grace. But this is a really, really powerful time for our church. As we come together, as we are fasting together, as we're praying together, I saw a huge move happen in our church last year when we did this. And this year, I'm excited for what God's going to do in this time of fasting and praying together. So yeah, this Sunday is right in between coming out of all of our Into series, because we had Into the Chaos that we just ended on, and then Eric had us all singing Frozen 2 last Sunday. On a side note, Into the Unknown was a great one-hit wonder kind of sermon, and it was about that time right after Jesus was born, talking about that. So we're going to kind of continue on in the story of Jesus' life, and we're going to talk about Jesus in the temple. And so we are going to be looking at Luke 2. So you can open up there. We're going to get there in a bit. But yeah, so I'm excited to do this kind of one-hit wonder sermon for you guys of Jesus, where you at? Okay, I promise I'm a college graduate. I have better grammar than this, I swear. Sometimes I grew up in the AV, and sometimes it just kind of comes out, that Antelope Valley ghetto. But, you know, we're going to roll with it. We're coming out of adventure, and we're going into something new. And I think it's important for us to understand that in that in-between, we know where God's at. We need to know what he's doing in that process before we fully leave what we came out of and before we go into what he has next for us. And so that's what this message is all about. I'm not going to give you the word of the year. You're not going to sneak it out of me. I have to build the anticipation for this because it's a good word, guys. I'm super excited. So let's jump into Luke 2. We're going to verse 41, and we're going to start there. So it says, "Now his parents went to Jerusalem every year for the feast of the Passover. And when he was 12 years old, he went up according to the custom. And when the feast ended, as they were returning, the boy Jesus stayed behind in Jerusalem. His parents did not know it. But supposing him to be in the group, they went a day's journey. But then they began to search for him until among their relatives and acquaintances. And when they did not find him, they returned to Jerusalem searching for him. After 3 days, they found him in the temple, sitting among the teachers, listening to them and asking them for questions. Or asking them questions. Let me rephrase that. Let me get that right. And all who heard him were amazed at his understanding and the answers that he was giving. And when his parents saw him, they were astonished. And his mother said to him, "Son, why have you treated us so? Behold, your father and I have been searching for you in great distress." And he said to them, "Why were you looking for me? Did you not know I must be in my father's house?" And they did not understand the saying that he spoke to them. And he went down with them and came to Nazareth and was submissive to them. And his mother treasured all these things in her heart. And Jesus increased in wisdom and in stature and in favor with God and man. This is the only story in the Bible we have of Jesus fully before his ministry as a boy. This is the only story in the whole Bible that we have of this. And if you grew up in the church, I'm sure you've heard probably about 1 million different teachings from this. You've heard a few different ways of thinking through this, and I want to pose a new one to you today. Like I said, I am the KidsLife director. I spent a whole year writing curriculum just for the kids, so if some of that comes out in how I speak today, just have fun with it. So in KidsLife, we have a big idea. We do a discover point, something new that we learned. We have an encounter point, something that touches our hearts. And then we have a display point or question, something that makes us think about what we're going to do next. What's going to change about us now that we've heard this? So you're going to see that a little bit today in how I'm bringing this up, because today's big idea is that God doesn't hide himself from us. That sounds funny coming from a story where Jesus is lost in the temple. That's literally what some people say about this, is that Jesus was lost. And so I want to start off with this understanding that God doesn't hide himself from us. We need to know this flat out. He wasn't hiding in a closet. He wasn't like, I'm going to go, hide, and we're going to see how long it takes for my mom and dad to come get me. He wasn't being sneaky, and he wasn't being defiant in his response to them either. He wasn't saying, didn't you know I was going to be here? He didn't have that teenage angst going on. He was like, no, honestly, didn't you know? Of course I would be here. That oblivious. If you have a middle schooler or you're around a middle schooler, they tend to be a little oblivious. And I love them all. So if you're in the room and you're a middle schooler, hi. I'm not talking bad about you, I swear. But your brain isn't fully developed yet. And that's what was happening with Jesus. He was fully God, yes, but he was also fully human. So he grew up like any other kid would. His body's changing and growing up, becoming more of a man. There are things going on. He's trying to understand a sense of identity, which I'm still figuring out in my 20s. I think some of you guys might still be figuring out. I think that's a lifelong thing. So he had these human qualities about him that show up in the story. The story shows how human he was. Well, of course I'd be here. That's how we need to understand this. He wasn't defiant. He wasn't hiding from Mary and Joseph. And because we understand Jesus as fully human and fully God, we can look at this and see that Jesus wasn't hiding, and take that and understand that God doesn't hide. Jesus is God. That's what we believe here, that Jesus is a part of the Trinity. The Trinity is 3 in 1 God. Don't mean to flash you with theology, crazy stuff, but that's what we believe, is that Jesus was God. So if we understand that Jesus didn't hide, we can understand that God doesn't hide himself from us. And it says this all over the Bible. Psalms 19 talks about how the heavens and the stars and the skies proclaim that God is good. They proclaim God's might and his power. Romans 1:20 says this. It says, for his invisible attributes, namely his eternal power and his divine nature, have been clearly perceived. Clearly perceived. Ever since the creation of the world. So from the beginning, God's been saying, hi, I'm all powerful, I'm here. And so we can look at nature, we can look at a sunset, we can look at a thunderstorm and go, whoa, that's God. That's hard for us to understand when it gets into some personal things though, right? When we start thinking about the things that go on in our lives, and it's okay, but I don't see God in this. Hold on to that thought. Hold on to those circumstances that you're thinking of where you're okay, but. Hold on to those. So, like I said, Throughout the Bible, it shows how all creation points to God's goodness. All creation is worshiping God. So it makes sense that if all creation has this impulse to worship God, wouldn't Jesus have this impulse to go towards God? Wouldn't Jesus have this impulse to come in and come closer to Jesus, or to God? Jesus come closer to God? Guys, Trinity talk is real. I spent years studying it, and I still trip over my words. I want us to discover something today. Because we have this big idea. We have this big idea that God doesn't hide himself from us. That's the heart of all of this story. God doesn't hide himself from us. But we're going to discover something here. We're discovering that Jesus' plans were centered around God. All creation has this impulse to worship God. Jesus had an impulse to come to God. I'm a Disney fanatic, if you don't know me. I'm slightly a child because I know pretty much most things, maybe everything, about Disney movies and Disneyland and Disney parks and how cast members operate, and useless things that I don't need to know, but I do. So in Disneyland, when a child is lost, a cast member or an employee is not allowed to say, "Hey kid, are you lost?" Bad, they can't say that. When a kid is lost, a Disneyland cast member is to say to a kid, "Are your parents lost?" It makes it a little less scary for the kid. Okay, I can buy that. But they're not allowed to say that. Instead, they phrase it, "Are your parents lost? I'll help you find your parents because they're lost." That's what's happening in this story. It's kind of shown in the, Mary and Joseph are stressed out and anxious because where did Jesus go? He's not with us, and if he's not with us, he's doing something wrong. We're the parents. He's supposed to be following us. What happened here? Where's the disconnect? And so before we start, chastising Mary and Joseph for their Home Alone parenting styles, 3 movies, how can you... Anyways, let's kind of just empathize because I think it's a little more natural. Parents lose kids. It happens. Kids have these impulses and they're gone. They just go. My brother, I love him, and he doesn't know I'm saying this, so when you watch this, Josh, I love you. When he was 3 years old, my family had all gone to Disneyland. My mom had me, and she was watching me and holding me and doing something, I don't know, and my dad had my brother. Within 2 seconds, my dad had my brother, he was holding his hand. 2 seconds, my brother is gone. Josh is nowhere to be found and is freaking out. Side note, whenever I go to camp, this is why I count to 8 or 10 or 15, 20,000 times to make sure, okay, they're all together, they're all there, okay. Which is, my mom worked in kids ministry, and so you can hear the argument between my mom and dad. You had one kid to count. You had one kid to count. Where did he go? And I can hear the argument between Mary and Joseph. You had one kid to count. Where is he? And so my dad found my brother, not by talking to an employee, not by doing anything like that, but because he saw Buzz Lightyear, tall and big and, all the costumes or whatever, walking in the crowd. My brother was obsessed with Buzz Lightyear. He had, the shirt, the pants, all the toys, all the bed sheets. Everything you can think of had Buzz Lightyear on it. So when my dad saw Buzz Lightyear, my dad sprinted through the crowd, and sure enough, there was my brother just following along right behind him. My brother had this impulse, I have to be with Buzz. I have to be with Buzz Lightyear. I have to see him. I have to see his wings go out and him shoot his laser, all this stuff. God reminded me of this story as I was reading through this story in Luke. Jesus had this impulse, this drawing of I have to know more about this. See, the significant thing about this story is that Jesus was 12. He was beginning his studies as a good Jewish man of knowing what the text was, knowing what types of things they celebrated. They were at a Passover celebration. They were all there. They all went there because this was the beginning of his time of really, really learning. And so as he was learning, he was just impulsed to I have to ask more questions. I have to know this. And like I said, Jesus, fully God, fully man, he knew he was the Son of God. He knew it. And so he had to learn more about it. He was learning about who he was, not just within his family and his role within his family, but of all families, of all history, for all time. This is a lot of really heavy things to be searching for that, like I said, I'm still searching for. And he's learning this at age 12, and he goes, these are the answers. This is what I need to know. He's learning what his role is going to be. We need to know that because then we tend to have a little more grace. When your middle schooler does something dumb, it helps knowing the why because you get to teach through the why. You keep the why. You say, yes, this is important, but, which I'm sure was an off-script conversation Mary had with Jesus, yes, this is important. You ask questions, and those were good. But tell us. Good parenting styles. I'm sure that happened because it does say later on that he was one that was obedient and submissive to his parents, that he listened to them. So this wasn't him being defiant. This was him really wanting to learn and grow. And why this is important to understand in these pieces is because Jesus had all of his plans were centered around God. Mary and Joseph, it says that they did this as they always do. As they always did. How many of us can get swept up in, I do this every day. In the morning I wake up, I make my coffee. Sometimes I read my Bible. Sometimes if I push snooze, I don't. Sometimes, whatever. Hair, makeup. Guys, maybe not makeup. Maybe shave. I don't know. Whatever it is for you, you have your routine that you go throughout the day. That you don't even have to think about it sometimes. You just kind of wake up and just start doing. That's what they were doing. They were lost in the routine of things. It's easy to get lost in the routine of things. I want you to catch that. It's very easy to get lost in the routine of things. But Jesus didn't. This was all new for him. It was the beginning of his training. He was passionate, wanting to know, very observant of what God had to say. And he wasn't concerned with the routine. He wasn't concerned with making sure the routine was kept sacred. He was concerned with, what do I need to know about God? What is God saying right now? How do I learn more? And it's that kind of an impulse that I wish I had. Because if I'm being really honest with you guys, I love Jesus. I was a Christian at 5 years old, grew up in a Christian household. I went to Bible college. You name it, youth group, all the things. I was there. I was with God. I was in it. But when you go through things, it's kind of hard. I'm just going to put it out there. It's kind of hard. It's all right. The first time, it's okay, God, this is bad, but you know what? You're still good, and this is still good, and I know you're still here. And then you go through the next bad thing, and if it's back to back, Lord help you. But you go through the next bad thing, and it's okay, you're still good, but man, I'm really tired right now. And then if you go through the next bad thing, then it's I'm just really tired. And you see what I kind of did, that you just kind of step back. Just one step at a time, just very slowly. It's and pretty soon it's not, God, you're still good even in this. Pretty soon it's, I'm done with this. Can anyone relate to that? It's hard. And that's where routine comes in, because routine helps you block that. Man, I don't have to think about this being hard. I can just, all right, I do this, A, B, C, here we go. Done. All right, I got through my day, didn't cry, we're good. Like, that's a successful day. These are things I've said, guys. I didn't cry today. It was a success. But I was lost in the routine of things. So was it really as good as I thought if I was lost in the routine? If I just went through and didn't say, you know what, God, you're still good. Was it really as successful of a day as I thought? See, God knows something. This is where our encounter part comes in, where we start letting our heart come into the story, where we start letting the story kind of hit us and hit nerves and kind of, we kind of shift a little bit in our seats, is this. When we feel lost on the adventure, God knows where we are at, and he knows where we are going. So you may be stuck in the routine. I have an end goal. I'm going to be there. Okay, I'm just going to do XYZ to get there. I made a bunch of New Year's goals. We're going to see how many I actually accomplish. And there are some of those goals that I set in. I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this by this day, this by that day, this by this day. Here's my plan. I'm going to get there. I'm going to get to my goals. But how many of those goals did I actually take to God first, before writing down? Last year, I had my goals. I knew what I was going to do. This is what's going to happen. And it was like me telling God, like, hey, this is the year. This is happening. I believe it. I said amen, so it's going to come true, right? Yeah. But then the year happened. And I thought I got out of all of those bad things and, okay, all right, good things are coming. This is the year. And 2019 was rough. It was still pretty rough. It continued that process of like one hard thing after another coming and not letting me really breathe. And I felt lost. In the Bible, Mary, I always say it wrong, Magdalene. Maybe that was right? Was that right? Yeah? Sure? Sound good? Yes? Awesome. Thank you. Good. You're still with me. She had a moment of pure devastation and loss. I fully believe that everything in the Bible, whether it's before Jesus' crucifixion and him rising again, or whether it's after, everything in the Bible, I believe, points to that moment in history. And I think that this story of Jesus at age 12 is no different. I am a person that I see the details. I see what one author calls a God wink. It's just a little like, gotcha. Like, there you go, pay attention to this. I see those, and those are something that matter to me. And so when I'm reading this story, and there's a number that sticks out to me. The fact that Mary and Joseph didn't find Jesus for another 3 days is significant to me. I want to jump over to Mary's story. It's in John 20. It'll be up on the screen, but it's John 20, verses 11 through 18. This is, Jesus has been crucified. He's been put in the tomb. She went to go to tend to the body, and his body was gone. She told all of Jesus' disciples. They all came to the tomb. No one sees anything there. No one knows anything. All the disciples go home, and Mary stays there. She stays where she last saw Jesus' body. She stays put right there. And that's where we're picking up right here. But Mary stood weeping outside the tomb. And as she wept, she stooped to look into the tomb, and she saw 2 angels in white sitting where the body of Jesus had lain, one at the head and one at the feet. They said to her, "Woman, why are you weeping?" She said to them, "They have taken away my Lord, and I do not know where they have laid him." Having said this, she turned around and saw Jesus standing there. But she didn't know it was Jesus. Jesus said to her, "Woman, why are you weeping? Whom are you seeking?" Supposing him to be the gardener. Okay, guys, remember she was weeping. She was devastated. She wasn't dumb. We're just going to, complete devastation changes how you perceive things. I'm just going to put that out there. She was devastated. Supposing he was the gardener, she said to him, "Sir, if you have carried him away, tell me where you have laid him, and I will take him away." Jesus said to her, "Mary." She turned and said to him, I'm going to butcher it, so I'm sorry, guys. Basically, rabbi, which means teacher. He says her name, and she responds back, "Teacher." Jesus said to her, "Do not cling to me, for I have not yet ascended to the Father, but go to my brothers and say to them, I am ascending to my Father and your Father, to my God and your God." And Mary went and announced to the disciples, "I have seen the Lord," and that all that he had said to her. I see a difference in how Mary and Joseph respond to Jesus and how Mary Magdalene responds to Jesus. Mary and Joseph went about their routine as normal. Mary Magdalene focused everything around Jesus, caring for him, taking care of him. And I think it's good that we see her humanness here. We see her weeping. We see her devastated. We see that anything she would have normally done is now being changed to take care of this dead body. And she is solely focused on making sure that he is taken care of and honored the way he ought to be. And he says her name, guys. And that's what changed it. She didn't leave where she last saw him. She stayed where she saw him. And then when he said to go, she went. It doesn't say that she clung on to him, and because she was so devastated before and she was so relieved now, she wouldn't let him go. No, he said it, she did it. I can't snap with this hand. I don't know. All right. He said it, she did it. It's important for us to know that, to understand that, because this does apply to us. Because are we swept up in the routine of things? Or are we focusing on, you know what, God did this in my life. God did this. And I'm going to hold on to this. We have to take the time when we are feeling good to know who Jesus is, to know where to find him, so that we know where to find him when we're anxious. So if you are in a good season right now, yes, I'm so excited for you. Spend time now really, really pouring into where is God? Where is he? Where can I find him? What are the ways I can feel most connected to him? Because when you are anxious and depressed, when you're going through things, that is not easy to do. It's not easy to do. When you barely have the energy to get out of bed, you don't want to read your Bible. I'm just keeping it real, guys. You don't want to do that when you can barely roll out of bed and put on a shirt. And it's like, okay, now what? When you feel alone, the last thing you want to do is put yourself in a room full of people, because maybe there's a reason I'm alone. You want to seclude yourself. The more alone you feel, the easier it is to just kind of shrink back into the background and, okay, all right, I'm just going to hide here because it's comfortable. And I don't have to figure out how to not be alone and how to figure out if this is my fault that I'm alone or not my fault that I'm alone. Again, I'm just trying to keep it real because these are things I have felt. When you feel like you are invisible and you haven't been heard, no one cares about what I'm going through or what I'm saying, it's really, really hard to pray and to understand that God does hear you. So when you are feeling good, if you build those habits now, those skills now of how to do this, it helps tremendously when you're not in the good place, when you're feeling a little low. It helps tremendously to go, okay, I don't want to pray, but I know he listened then, so I know he'll listen now. It's not a quick fix. I wish. But it's building that up. It's figuring out where to find him. If Shane and I were to go to the mall and we got separated, and he was trying to find me, and let's say both our phones died, because let's make this a challenge. If he were trying to find me, he would go straight to the Disney store. I told you I'm slightly obsessed. He would go straight to the Disney store. And if I wasn't already there, I would be there probably in the next 5 minutes of him getting there. Because we're in relationship with each other. We know things about each other. He would know, okay, I know my wife, crazy, obsessed Disney girl, she's going to be there. So I'm going to camp out here until she comes. And it's that kind of mindset of I'm going to camp out where I last saw Jesus until he comes that is going to be what gives you hope in some of those dark times. And it's hard to stay in that spot. It's not easy. But guys, it's so worth it. It is so worth it. Because when we're feeling lost, Mary felt lost. She shifted her life. Well, her life was flipped upside down when Jesus died because she followed him everywhere. He died, and then she flipped her life around to take care of him, his body, and then his body was gone, and then she's really had no idea what to do. And so she camped out there, and that's where Jesus met her. He knew where she was at, but he also knew where she was going. For us, when we camp out where we last experienced God, where we last encountered God, he shows up and he says, hey, I love you. I'm calling you by name. I have a relationship with you. Now here's what's next. Now we can move into what is ahead. I think that's a big focus at the beginning of the year, January, that first week. Really, people are, okay, this year I'm going to do X, Y, Z. I'm going to go to these places. But if we haven't stopped to be where God was last, we're going to have a really hard time actually going where he's calling us next. Because we're not going to know it. We're not going to know it, guys. As we're walking on the path, we need to seriously assess our steps with this question. Are you following God, or are you expecting him to follow you? That's a big one. Let me say it again. Are you following God, or are you expecting him to follow you? Like I said, sometimes things happen to us that we didn't plan. You don't plan for illness. You don't plan for job loss. You don't plan for death. Sometimes those things are out of your control and to no fault of your own. But it's how we respond in those next steps that change things. They bring us closer to God or farther. They bring us comfort, true comfort, which comes from God. Or it's a Band-Aid that just kind of, there's a big, huge gash, and we're just going to slap a little, like, here's a frozen Band-Aid, just right there. Like, yeah, all right, there's a big hole, but, that'll fill it, I guess, for now. And then I'll just kind of fill more stuff in with it. Especially when we've tried, and we've, like I was saying, one bad thing happens, okay, God, you're good. I can trust you in this. The next bad thing happens, okay, this isn't the end. The next bad thing happens, and you slowly start bringing yourself back. It's really, really easy for that process to happen. But there's another way that I have fallen into this I'm expecting God to follow me thing. And it happens when God says, okay, this is what's going to happen. Like, this is your end goal. And I'm like, okay, great. I will fill in all the steps to get there from where I'm at. Like, I'll tell you, God, what I'm going to do. Like, okay, you say I'm going to, go to Walmart. Okay, this is the route I'm taking. And most of the time I take the, not actually, but theoretically I take the roundabout way when God's like, this is the quickest way to get there, the least amount of traffic. Go this way. And I'm like, no, but I'm going to make my own decision. I'm still going to go where you want me to go. I'm still going to go where you're saying, but I'm going to fill in my own steps. When we first heard the word of the year for last year, for adventure, we went out immediately after and we did an adventure ropes course. And there was 6 different ways of doing this ropes course. There was an easier way, and then there was ridiculously hard, muscular man should be doing this. And me, thinking I'm still high school me, yeah, I'm fit, I'm in shape, I'm gonna do the hardest way possible. I'm still gonna get to the end goal. But I chose the hardest way, and I think I blocked it off the whole time because I was stuck on this rope wall, and I could not get across. And everyone's like, yeah, Allie, you can do it. And I'm like, shut up. Every muscle in me is screaming, why did you do this? Every muscle in me is like, you are punishing yourself. Why in the world would you choose to do this? I think that's what happens for a lot of us on our adventure. We know the end goal, and we love God. We're not trying to be defiant to him, but at the same time, we hear one thing, and then we go off on our own thing. And it's when we go off on our own thing that it makes it a little more difficult. It makes it a little more challenging, as opposed to letting things take time. Letting it be, you know what, God, I'm camping out here, and I don't hear from you, but I'm going to just kind of wait here. My emotions are going to wait here. I'm not going to act on my emotions. I'm going to stay right where I'm at. Okay. I don't hear you speaking. I'm reading my Bible. I'm not hearing you. This isn't fixing anything. It's when we camp out there and we just wait that we do get the next right answer. We don't get a counterfeit. We don't get a fake or a fraud. We get the real thing. We get something good and pure and holy that helps us fix things the next time around. Worship team, you can come on up. Proverbs 16:9 says this: the heart of man plans his way, but the Lord establishes his steps. So I want to ask you guys, how are we looking at our lives with Christ? Are we asking God to bless what we just did? Or are we asking for his divine path ahead? And as we're asking that, I'm not saying hey, God, what apples should I buy at the store today? Sometimes maybe, because maybe organic might be better. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about that next step. I'm talking about, okay, this is a big decision. Or this is a big hurt. This affects me deeply. God, what are you doing next? And how am I going to follow through on that? It's not, okay, God, I tried fixing this on my own. Take care of it. Like, I just did this. Bless it. Let it be good. That's not what's happening here. Are you asking God what's next? Are you taking all of those New Year's goals that I'm sure we have all made, whether it's 1 or 20, are you taking those to God and saying, okay, what do you think about these? Are you praying about them? Are you fasting for them? We're going to enter into a time of worship right now. We're going to be worshiping God, in which we're doing what Jesus did at age 12. Where he said, you know what, God, I'm leaving it all here. I'm right here. I'm focused solely on you. I don't care about all of the things that need to happen and XYZ and all the routine. I'm going to focus on you. And as we worship, I want you to really think through that. Lord, I want to focus on your goodness, on your divine power, on your divine ways. I want to focus on what you are doing in this place. And I want to be with you, and I want to hear you say my name. Let's pray. Lord God, I thank you. I thank you that you call us by name, that you know us deeply and truly. God, you are good, and your ways are pure. Help us to seek those first and foremost before any other thing in this year, that we would focus in on you. In your name, amen.